Hi friends, my name is Sabrina and I'm with the Grace Company, and today we're going to talk about Finesse. This line here is our line called Finesse Classic. It has 80 different colors and we have upgraded some things and changed a few things since our last line with Finesse. One of the things we first wanted to highlight was the size of the spool that we chose for this new line. Instead of doing 1,500 yards, which was our old thread line, we've chosen to do 1,100 yards. We heard a lot of feedback from customers that once they finished a quilt, there was some left on the spool, and it created a problem because there wasn't enough to wind a bobbin, but there was still some on there, and so people felt bad about throwing it away. So we listened, we heard you, and we have decreased the size of our spools. But this has allowed us to do some testing and to see what is going to be the perfect size for your quilt. But for these neutral colors, which we have our snow white, pearl white, light wool, light sand, and smoky quartz, we have created a 5,500 yard spool. One of the other fun parts about Finesse is that it is 100% polyester, but unlike other polyester threads, it's made to look and to feel like cotton. When you have it here, you can see it's a little bit linty, even on the spool. And so we have chosen to make it a matte finish. Instead of having that shiny look to your quilts, we've settled on a natural and homey look. So to highlight the difference, I do have a quilt here. This was a little mini tree skirt that I made for winter market. And you can see that this thread is very shiny. It's very different than what you would see in our traditional Finesse line. It looks good for this purpose, but it's very different than what I would put on a traditional quilt, like what you see behind me here. We do have another polyester thread, and see how it just stands out compared to, we'll take leafy green, where this would blend in with your fabric. One of the benefits to having a polyester thread is that it lasts longer. It's more durable. When you're putting it through an industrial machine, like your quilting machine, it's going to hold up better. So next, I wanted to talk about some of our colors because there are so many colors here. In the past, before I started working for Grace, I was a strictly white quilter. I would only quilt with bright white. Working with Finesse has opened the doors of possibilities for me as a quilter. It's pushed my boundaries to really work hard to find a reason to use a color other than white. To see that I could do an orange quilt, which orange is my least favorite color in the world. But because of Finesse, I have started to use orange in my quilting because I've seen how beautiful these colors are and how good they look with some fresh quilting. One of my favorite colors that we have is Baja Blue. This is such a fun color. It gives you an opportunity to use it with blues, with greens, even with purple, it would look really good. Finding your color is going to be so fun with Finesse. There are so many different options. We chose to listen to you when we designed this firework color. It has red, white, and blue, and it is a nice variegated to work on any red, white, and blue quilt or whatever you decide to use it with. We heard you and we made this color. The other variegated that is new that I really love is Cake Batter. It looks so good on any white neutral quilt. It's such a fun color and it works well with any neutral or even vibrant quilt. But it really stands out because it has a little bit of brown, some white, and some off-white. For variegated thread, it can be so fun to use over a solid quilt, especially when using edge-to-edge quilting. It can be super fun to have one design that goes all the way through your quilt, but the thread changes throughout. If you have a quilt that is multiple colors of orange, it might be fun to use Fall Festival. Same with Canyon Shale and Mountain Mist. Canyon Shale is a little bit darker and Mountain Mist is a little lighter. So this is grays and whites and this one is more black and white. Together, they look great. It can be great to have the options of those variegated threads to really mix up your color schemes, spruce things up, have fun with it. That's the whole point of Finesse, is to look good, feel good and to have fun while you're quilting. We've expanded some of our lighter colors as well. If you're doing a blue quilt, for instance, it might be fun, instead of using a white, to use something like ice blue, where it ties in those blues but still gives you that light feeling of the white or the pearl white. It's really a great option. Even some of our variegated light colors like cotton candy could be great for a dark quilt. Throw some light thread on there to really make your quilting pop. Because we have so many options, it's great to be able to use all of the options and to really find something that we like. We created 80 colors so that we could best listen to our audience, hear what you have to say, and so that you can create beautiful things.
We are on the machine and frame to show practical application of Finesse Classic. So I did want to show some of this stitching is from our original Finesse line. So you can see it stitches out great, tension's great, you're not gonna have any problems with it. But now we're gonna show how Finesse Classic is better. So one of the big issues that we had heard is the lint buildup. So I do wanna take a second just to show how much lint builds up compared to the new Finesse. So I'm gonna pull the bobbin case out so you can really see there is thread buildup all around the bobbin area. We're just gonna clean that out, get all the wispies out from behind that edge as well. And you can see even in this area, it's full of lint. So we've cleaned out our bobbin area and we're ready to show a few different threads and how they compare to our original Finesse. And we're gonna start by showing a few different ways to compare and contrast Finesse, our original Finesse, to Finesse Classic and a few other brands that we're not going to name. So this one is 100% cotton. We're just gonna thread our needle here. So now we can go ahead and stitch a little bit. And we're just gonna do a little bit of stitching here. Perfect. So as you can see, stitch quality is going to be the same as the original Finesse, except your 100% cotton is going to lint more than Finesse Classic. That's gonna be your main difference there. Now we can go ahead and show some metallic thread. Metallic thread is fun, but it can be very brittle and it can break easy. And as you can see here, just by pulling that through, you can really see where the thread is already about to break. That's one of the difficulties of using a metallic thread, how brittle it can be just pulling it through the thread path. So when you have a super high speed machine, it can be difficult and you might see a little bit more thread breakage than you would with a polyester. And we'll pull up our bobbin here and we can do a little bit of stitching. So as you can see with this metallic thread, it can look super fun, but when you're looking for a more classic homey feel on your quilt, something like a metallic thread might detract from your piecing. It might also amplify it. It really just depends on the taste of the individual quilter. Next here, we have another 100% polyester. The main difference is that it's shiny. So it's not metallic, it doesn't have any of that brittle feel, but it is going to look very different on your quilt than a traditional cotton would. Perfect, so you can see how different it looks, especially compared to the blue where you can see the matte versus the shiny thread on your quilt. The last one we have here is a similar thread to Finesse Classic. It is 100% polyester and it is made to look like cotton. You can even see on the thread cone itself, it's already starting to pill and have a lot of that lint versus a cone of Finesse here, where it has the lint, but it's much more tame. You can see the difference between the two. So the main difference you're gonna see with another polyester thread is again gonna be that linting that you'll see on the thread before it's even gone through the machine. Your durability might go down a little bit because of how much lint is coming off of that thread. But now we're gonna show some examples of Finesse Classic. So the French blue that we have here, you can see the difference in the size of the cone. It's a little bit shorter, a little stockier, but my favorite little part that we added was the collapsible bottom. So you can see it does pop out just like that, snaps back in. You can really pull it out like that. And then when you're done with your thread, just wind it up around that bottom of your thread cone, tuck it underneath, and close it up. Now you can see the tail is sticking out, but it's not going to unravel. And you can see it is significantly less linty even than this green thread that we had shown. And we can start to stitch. So you can see the stitch quality is a little bit different compared to the last green that we used, but it's nice and soft. It blends with the fabric to give it a nice feel so that you don't have to worry about your thread really standing out and detracting from the piecing that you did. So we've talked about durability, we've shown the physical differences between the threads. The last thing we wanted to show was how to pick a thread for the fabric and the quilt that you're using. All right, so I've tacked down a few blocks here. We have a peach, an orange, a lemon, and a lime. So we're gonna talk about color contrast and picking colors that are gonna highlight your blocks. So for starters, I am gonna start with the lemon. So we do have a vibrant yellow that we're gonna show using right on that block so you can see it's as close as you can get to it. We've got our needle threaded, and then we can go ahead and start to stitch. And then I am just gonna go ahead and stitch right along that. So as you can see, that yellow thread just blends right into the fabric. When you're looking from above, you can't see the difference there in that thread. If you were using a contrasting color, you could really, really see the difference. So now we're gonna go ahead and add in some white lines, and this will really show a stark contrast. So now we're just gonna do a few little echo lines across. So even right off the bat there is a big difference between this stitching and the stitching over here. So it's important when you're deciding on the look of your quilt, whether or not you want a contrasting color, because it will change the overall look. If you're doing edge to edge, you might want something that's gonna blend in with all your colors, maybe a variegated, maybe a simple white, but you wanna pick something that is going to best fit the colors that you have on your quilt. So instead of the white, we're gonna go ahead and use our straw yellow. You can see that it is gonna be just slightly lighter than that yellow. But what that is gonna do is be less of a contrast than the white, but still show a little bit more than the matching color here. So what I'm gonna do is add in some little yellow pebbles between these white lines. I'm gonna start on this edge, and then we're gonna add some pebbles. You can see even from the overhead that there's a difference between the pebbles, the white, and that outline. So it's really important to find something that's gonna complement. Going just a hair shade lighter than your fabric can do a lot of wonders for your piecing. So the last thing we're gonna show is a little bit of background quilting in this gray. So silver is gonna be our closest to this background color. So that's what I'm gonna use here. And we're just gonna tie off right by stitching in that ditch here and coming over to the edge. And now I'm gonna use a little bit of a darker thread here. So we're gonna go ahead and swap out our silver for Moonlight Glade. You can see it's just a little bit darker there. So we'll pop in here. All right, for our final area, we'll go ahead and stitch over here in white so we can show the three all next to each other. So you've got that all set. So from an overhead standpoint, with the dark thread, you can really see it. It's a stark contrast, very big difference. With a thread that matches, you can just barely see that quilting, and it adds some nice dimension, texture, and effect. With the white, from an overhead standpoint, you can't see it at all. When we get close to it, however, it really is amplified by that stitching. So the color highlights the background, it adds texture, and it can be super fun. Just remember, it's important to pick a thread that's going to highlight your quilting, it's gonna highlight your piecing, and not detract from the hard work that you put into making this quilt. Thank you so much for joining us on this overview of Finesse. We're so excited to see what you create with it. Tag us on social media, post on your Instagram story, post in the Facebook groups, share with your local quilters. Really be involved. We want to see what you create because we're sure it's going to be beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day.